Welcome to 6 Gun Guitars Live Through Your Lessons. We're continuing on with French polishing here. Like I said in the last video, back is done, grain spilled, everything is nice and ready to go. I made a rubber, and I've got instructions on how to do that in the French polishing videos. It's just a piece of cloth, cotton cloth or wool, with another piece of cotton, just t-shirt material, kind of wrapped around it. I've got my bottle of 2-pound cut shellac, and I have a bottle of denatured alcohol. These are pretty much your 3 ingredients. Now you can use mineral oil to lubricate, but in the method that I'm using, I just use overlapping strokes over and over, going all the way across. And typically by the time you get to the one side, the other side's ready to go again, so you can go ahead and add a little bit more shellac and go. The mineral oil, the reason for it is for lubrication. As you start going back and forth, your pad's going to start to stick. The only problem that I've had with the mineral oil is as you're swirling around and doing your thing, sometimes it leaves little track marks in there and little swirlies from the mineral oil that you have to come back and sand out. It might be a little bit of an error in procedures. I mean, some of the guys who've been doing this for 20 years might know a little bit better way to deal with that. But I found that if I just come back with overlapping strokes over and over and just keep on doing that way, it applies just fine and it gets a really nice shine to it right away without any weird streaks in there. It takes a little bit longer, but I think it's worth it. So let me bring you over to the bench and I'll show you how to start French polishing. So I have my pad, I have my shellac, and I have my denatured alcohol. I'm going to take the lids off of both of these guys so that way I can use them. Now, first thing you want to do, after your surface, again, is nice and clear and ready, is you want to go ahead and apply a little bit of shellac to the pad. Now, you want to get it into the pad and you want to get it down into the pad below because that's the reservoir. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a good amount of shellac on here. Let that soak in really, really good. And now I'm also going to add just a little bit of denatured alcohol to the top of that, just to thin it out a shade. Now you want to come across, holding on tight, you want to come across and you want to land just inside of an edge and go all the way off of it. And then come back down and land just inside of that edge again, and then come all the way off the parts that you missed. So I'm going to come down and land and go all the way across, and then I'm going to come down and land inside of that streak and come all the way off the streak that I made. So again, landing on the inside, going all the way off the edge. Kind of like an airplane taking off and landing. You're not going to hit the end of the runway as you're trying to land. You're going to land kind of somewhere in it. And you're not going to come across the same way. So you just want to keep on going across. And we're applying shellac. And I like to go the full length of the instrument. I'm going to do the first half here. Now you can see it's going on pretty light. And part of that is because the first time around you do have some that's sucking into the pad. Just going to kind of come down through. I'm giving it a good amount of pressure. And that's what's applying that shellac for me. So now I've got my first layer on the first side. So because again this is kind of fresh in here, I'm going to add a little bit more shellac to my pad. And now I'm going to keep going on the second part of it. I'm trying to keep my arm out of the way here. But again, I'm landing just inside of the edge and then going all the way off the edge on the outstroke. Alright, so now we've gone from one side to the other. And now, if you touch this side, it's basically dry. And it's because you're applying a 2-pound cut of shellac, and it's also mixed with a little bit of denatured alcohol. So you might even only be putting on a 1.5 or 1-pound cut. So now I'm going to come back on this side, and I'm going to do the same thing. Don't be afraid if you can't go as fast as I'm going. It's not the end of the world. And honestly, on a guitar or a real guitar, I'd probably go a little bit slower. But this is just the back of an old guitar that I thought would sit around in the shop for 10 years and do nothing. So I'm going to go ahead and go a little quicker just so that way I don't have another 30-minute video for you. Okay, so once again, all the way across. Now, I'm going to give it 30 seconds to a minute, roughly between there. Your reservoir inside of your rubber here is going to hold that shellac. You can actually squeeze it out. So I'm not too worried about that drying up on me. But as soon as I can start to feel that I don't really have any tack, I can go ahead and come across and add a little bit more. I'm just going to keep adding to my pad and just keep laying on these just microscopic layers, just trying to make sure that I touch everything. And that's the secret to a French polish. You're just going to lay on these microscopically thin layers of shellac. And those are going to build up. It's called bodying up. Those are going to body up. And what's going to wind up happening is you're going to have a super, super high gloss. And you can already see, a little bit of reflection in here of my hand and whatnot. Some of it's shadow, but definitely some of it's hand. And you can see the rubber kind of shining over there too. And that's just because you're getting a super high gloss build from this. And that's the whole point. I just got a little bit of a fuzzy on there, but that's the whole point. Is you're going to keep coming across and you're just going to keep getting this build. So again, I like to do this with a lot of shellac. Some guys don't, but I do. So again, I'm just going to feel it. Okay, so it's starting to get dry again. So now I can start coming across again and get down a few layers. Now you can do this about 10 or 20 times before your bottom layer of shellac, or your layer of shellac that you applied, because these are all melting into each other, by the way. So you can do this about 10 or 20 times before that layer starts to get a little goobery, and then I usually like to stop. Stop for about an hour, throw this thing in a Ziploc bag, or throw it in a little small glass jar, put it in something so that way it doesn't get dry on you and you can keep using it. If it gets dry, chuck it. The price of cloth here versus damaging your finish isn't really that high. So just keep coming through back and forth. Start at one side, work all the way to the other side. Give it a few seconds. If it's warm out, give it a little. See, I'm starting to develop. I've got a little tack here, so I need to give this a couple of minutes, so that way it can kind of get through and it can dry out. I'll get a little bit of light on here. It's going to kind of help it a little bit. It'll show a little bit of the shine. But as I'm going through, and I keep laying on these layers of shellac, it just keeps getting thicker and thicker and thicker, and your finish just keeps getting better and better and better. Now, if it gets super, super sticky on you and you don't want to stop in between sessions like I'm going to do, you can add a little bit of mineral oil, which you can get at a CVS or a Walgreens. You can just get it at a drugstore. And what that's going to do is it's going to let you put a little, dab a little on your finger and just rub it all over the top of your pad. It's going to give you lubrication. So you can go to town and just go in circles and go nuts, and you'll just keep on putting shellac layers down. I prefer not to use the mineral oil. Like I said, I think it leaves a little bit of a streakiness at the end. Part of it's probably my technique, and that's fine. I can deal with that. But I have a way here that I can avoid doing that. So what I'm going to do is probably 4 or 5 more of these sessions where it's about 20 strokes across, and I'm going to separate each one of those sessions by about an hour, hour and a half, right around there. Just so that way my bottom layer is completely dry when I bring on my next layer. And I'm going to do about, like I said, probably about 5 of those, build up a really nice, rich finish, and I'll probably bring you back halfway through that or at some point to kind of show you the process as it goes along, and then we'll be able to show you the finished results. Like I said, add the shellac to your pad, start on one side, like an airplane taking off. This is a little tacky, but I can do one more. So start on one side like an airplane taking off and landing, and just go back and forth, and get some fuzzies on there, and just go all the way across. You don't want to ever stop in one spot, because if you stop in one spot, you're going to leave a mark, and that mark's going to be stuck in your shellac. You're going to have to rub it out later. But like I said, that's it. You can already start to see some of the reflection building up in here, and part of it's from the wetness, but part of it's from the fact that it's a really, really smooth surface and a really good finish. If you have any questions, shoot me an email, sixgunguitars@gmail.com. I'm going to go throw this in a little jar so that way it doesn't dry on me, and I can use it again, and I'll come back and show you after a few more of these body sessions have been completed.